welcome to the 83rd episode of Growing Up Geek, the weekly podcast for geek entertainment and nostalgia. My name is Brad, and I am joined by a man who's been known to toss a caber or two, my brother Rob.
Cuantos hermanos?
Greetings! Not a very Scottish greeting.
Not a very Scottish greeting at all.
Considering last time I saw you, you were in a kilt.
I was wearing a kilt and a thing, that sash and the man pouch.
Yeah, I saw that. You have the baddest Facebook picture right now with like this giant log, a caber basically.
It actually, you can't even see it. It was an 11-foot tall, 75-pound log that I had to try and flip end over end, straight forward.
This was at a family.
Failed miserably.
I wondered about that. This was at a family function. The annual Barnacue, as it's known. And so you failed miserably. I know Matt was there, too. Did he do any better?
Nope.
There you go. Scottish.
No, it was the giants of the family that helped out. We have, the guys who are like 10 inches taller than each of us.
I know. We do have some
clan.
big dudes in our family. But, I'm sorry to hear that you failed at that. But you actually told me you had a story to share.
Yeah, I ran back to work because I forgot my laptop there. So I was, had to do the show. But it was fortunate because on my way there, I noticed that parked in our parking lot is Google Street View car.
So does it say like Street View on the side?
It says it has the Google logo and like the guy, like the little man you drag around the map. But honestly, like it wasn't that impressive. You expect this van or this slick looking thing. Yep. It was seriously. I'm guessing you order away for the kit. And they send you, all right, here's the thing you stick on your car.
Oh, so you mean this is like volunteer?
Yeah, I'm betting because the car wasn't anything special. It just had a pole attached to it with a camera on top, like with 4 cameras coming out.
I always wonder like what happens if you like see one of those and you like rip the door open. Like I imagine it with like tinted windows, and then you like open the door and there's nothing in there but like a faceless cyborg, or just there's no one in the car,
Nah, from what I saw, there was a laptop in there. And that was but I decided to get some payback.
Yeah.
I took out my Palm Pre, and I snapped a photo of it because it snapped photos of all of us. I'm just watching The Watchmen here.
Wow.
The answer to the question is me.
Cool. So that sounds pretty nifty. Let's go ahead and get into some geek news then. This week is going to be an all-news fest because San Diego Comic-Con happened.
Yeah.
And a million sweaty geeks converged under one roof, and they had to open the doors. Essentially this week's going to be an all-news show. For those who don't know, Comic-Con is basically a nerd utopia. You've got movies, video games, comics, television, all these different panels, and news that comes out of all these different fields. It's not strictly comics anymore. And you know what? There wasn't that much video game news, but before Comic-Con, there was a pretty big announcement as far as you're concerned.
Right.
I want to let you get to that before we delve into the Comic-Con stuff. Harmonix announced Rock Band Network. I know that you're excited about that. Why don't you fill us in?
Indeed. Yeah, Harmonix, this thing is huge and kicks Guitar Hero's butt once more. Basically, think of it this way. Finally, there's a way for the average Joe, or the slightly higher than average Joe, but not the one with the record industry backing him, to get his songs into Rock Band. All basically you need is a 4-track master with drums, guitar, bass, and vocals. Just meet the criteria. And then you plug them into a program they give you, and you're going to map out the keys. You're going to map out what the lighting will do. Select who's the default characters for this? What's the default kind of? Are you going to do the goth guy, the rock guy? So you just input it all and then submit it. It is part of the XNA developers community. So that means it's $100 a year to be subscribed to be able to do this. So
yeah, and there's like a review process, right? They're going to analyze your song.
Right, because it's not just throw it up there and it's there for everybody to download. It's, the way that XNA is working already, which is you get reviewed by your peers. They take a look at it, and some of them will say, okay, this is Metallica. What are you doing? Don't throw this up here, Hopefully, and other ones will say, okay, this is crappy. You need to have a better song.
Yeah, when you mentioned this to me, you were saying this could be a possible way for you to get more exposure. Yeah. I imagine a lot of bands are probably going to try to do that.
I know.
through this service.
If I had a band together already, this would be like my thing. I'd be like, dudes, let's start recording now. And like, as far as I'm concerned, my angle is composition, and I want to do it for games. So I don't really have songs per se. But this is making me think, like, I could write some songs and put them in here, and you get 30% of the revenue. Like, that's not bad at all.
Not bad.
They said the pricing is between like 50 cents a song to $3 a song. And if you hit the sweet spot, then you're selling enough songs and making enough $1 or, like thing here or there to eventually accumulate maybe into something, a nice little source of income and a good source of exposure to get the rest of your stuff out there.
Yeah. Well, here's my question is, you seem, uniquely qualified to do something like this, being that you focus on composing, but do you think that this is the same skill set as, like, making music? Because it sounds more like programming to me.
Yeah, you know what? The program that they seem to be giving you is actually, there's not, like, artificial intelligence or anything to concern yourself with. It's just plug in your audio, which anybody who's worked with GarageBand knows how to do. Make sure you have 4 individual tracks. Put those in there. All right, sync them up, and then just put in the keys and notes.
Yeah.
And as long as that's good,
stuff that today's musicians are used to, basically. Piuters.
Right.
I guess I'm making it sound like.
I don't think it's going to be much harder than plugging in MIDI notes into like a piano roll. Like, it should be. I think it should be fairly easy, and I think Harmonix is going to make it so that it's more tuned towards the musicians and less towards programmers.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be a lot of tweaking. Like, you're not going to get like Halo skins or something, through this method. It's just going to be more audio and then, a map to that, lighting, things like that.
Yeah. Well, it sounds pretty promising. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with this. I know a lot of musicians are chomping at the bit to do this. So, very cool. That is video game news. Again, like I said, there's not much video game stuff at Comic-Con besides like Halo anime, which is not really video game news anyway. But yeah. So let's move into the Comic-Con goodness. Movies were really the big thing, and I'd like to focus on that if we could right up front. The biggest of all. And if you read anything about Comic-Con, you'll see that James Cameron showed off 25 minutes of Avatar, which is his highly anticipated science fiction film. We've talked about it on the show. James Cameron don't make no crap. And he showed this off actually in 3D. And if you're like me, you read the reactions to this, and you just want to see this freaking movie right now. To me, it feels like Jurassic Park, like the reactions that people are having to the computer graphics. And just for the audience, we found out more about the story now, which is the reason it's called Avatar is that there's this planet Pandora that mankind wants to go to, but they can't survive there, so they put their like brain waves into an alien avatar and send that there. So it's kind of cool. Essentially, you have a guy played by Sam Worthington who has no legs. He can't really walk around an alien planet, but because of this process, this avatar process, he's able to explore, but he looks like an alien.
Yeah.
Because he is basically controlling an alien. That's a cool idea just right there, but the footage is supposedly amazing. Like, people were saying this just looks real, and here's the good news is that everyone will get to see this footage free in theaters on August 21st.
Avatar Day.
Which that's super exciting to me.
Yeah.
Thoughts, comments?
I really want to see it too. Come on. Like, somebody was like, it's Final Fantasy, The Spirit Within with render time.
Right, exactly.
Like, I want to know, because for me, I'm watching stuff already, like Pixar and stuff, and I'm like, well, this is pretty real. This is pretty good stuff. Mm-hmm. So how can you get better? I think it's like whenever I was watching Terminator 2 when I was a kid,
right,
and asking myself, well, how can you do better than this? How can you do better than color television with special effects?
Right.
And lo and behold, now there's high definition.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking now we're going to see the dawn of an era where we really are reaching photorealism in computer graphics. And from this point on, it's going to be like how it was with Jurassic Park on.
Yeah.
It's like Now the possibilities are growing and growing and growing, and not just to have special effects or amazing, spectacle.
Right.
But probably where this is really applicable is emotional responses.
Yeah, facial things conveying the emotions. I have to say, like, it's harder and harder to impress people now. I mean, you have to try. When people say photoreal, like, they've been saying that forever. That is a nonsense term almost anymore, because everything has supposedly been photoreal. But if this is the way people are describing it, like, you can't tell. And that hasn't happened since Jurassic Park. Like, that I looked at a CG character and was like, that looks like a real... I mean, maybe Gollum in the Two Towers, but it's rare because we're just so used to what CG is. When Jurassic Park came out, we didn't know what CG was. Somebody thought it was like a Play-Doh dinosaur. I remember the guy on the Terminator behind the scenes that said the lady behind him in the theater said, "Oh, I know how they did that. They did it with jelly, for the liquid metal." But now people know what CG is, and to impress people now, you got to work hard. But anyway, August 21st, we'll have a chance to see that. So big, cool news, and apparently we'll see it in 3D, which is nice.
Really, really looking forward to it. Finally jumping over the uncanny valley, let's hope.
Yeah, maybe. And the official film comes out in December. I just wanted to mention real quick.
Nice.
Okay, so on the subject of film, let's talk about Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. The teaser debuted at Comic-Con. We have not discussed this news, but Tim Burton is making Alice in Wonderland, for those who don't know. And this is the first time that we have had a chance to see the teaser. Teaser actually shows quite a bit. I was surprised.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to it?
A handful of reactions. I'm excited? Question mark? Like, yes, Alice in Wonderland, awesome. Tim Burton, sure. It's almost like way too obvious. Like, hasn't he already done this yet?
Yeah.
The cast is kind of Tim Burton staple stuff, and I think maybe the one thing that a lot of people are getting really excited about, but I'm just not sure about, is Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter. I think, like, is this going to make the Mad Hatter bigger than the Mad Hatter was supposed to be? Like, he was just a character in an episode. Like, that's what Alice in Wonderland is. It's a series of episodes that maybe each reveal their own little thing, but there's not, many recurring characters.
Yeah, well, I have to say, like, our experience with Alice in Wonderland is pretty much just based on the Disney cartoon, the TV movie from the 80s, and the TV movie from recent years.
True.
This apparently takes place when Alice is, like, in her 20s, but it looks from the trailer like it's retelling a lot of the same story / sequel. And like you said, the Mad Hatter's role is greatly inflated from the original.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get mad about, like, they're ruining the canon. Because I don't really know the canon. But I have to say, I was just kind of disgusted by this trailer because of how Johnny Depp looks as the Mad Hatter, which, like you said, people are getting all excited about it, but he looks like a gross, undead clown. Like, it's Tim Burton just Burtonizing something that doesn't need change to me. I mean, and maybe that's old man talk, but Willy Wonka, Planet of the Apes, and now this, it's like, does he have to come in and just paint over everything with, like, a gross, like, zombie brush? I mean, his style worked really well in some of his original material and things, but this whole remaking thing, it disgusts me kind of. And the other real problem I have with this trailer is it starts to make Johnny Depp and Danny Elfman common. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
they shouldn't become like they're in every single Tim Burton movie. In fact, the news came out that Dark Shadows is his next property, which is another remake of a British TV vampire series. And guess who's going to play the lead? Johnny Depp.
Yep.
Like, I don't want to get sick of Johnny Depp, but I'm getting sick of Johnny Depp. Like, yeah. and the way the trailer, like, attempts to get you excited by, like, holding out who's playing him. Like, yeah. I was embarrassed for the trailer because I'm like, we know it's going to be Johnny Depp. That's not surprising.
Yeah.
And Danny Elfman is a genius, but I don't want to get sick of his music.
That's true. I mean, I will say, visually, though, they are doing some cool things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bring it back.
I do like how proportion is really kind of messed around with. It's not like every character has a large head or whatever, but there are a few that they throw in there, just the weird looking characters. So it's almost as if each character is from a different sort of world or a different sort of aesthetic.
Yeah.
Which is kind of that's kind of neat. I noticed that Alice's size even is kind of varying, not just her the drink me eat me kind of thing, but that even in comparison to who she encounters in the world, like things are gonna be changing. So it looks like they're doing a lot to kind of do like to a really creative sort of lush world. So I am kind of excited about that. I do fear, however, this movie compared to the likes of Avatar, because this is so clearly computer graphics.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's a teaser. We should say this is probably early stuff.
Still.
But the shots of him throwing stuff out of his hat or dancing across the table are, again, kind of embarrassing, to me.
I fear that people are gonna just look at this and go, "Ugh, CG. Why can't you get James Cameron to do this movie?"
We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, so third on the movie train from Comic-Con is Gary Oldman spilled the beans about the new Batman film.
Yeah.
This is kind of weird. He was at a panel for the Book of Eli, and a fan asked him about The Dark Knight, which is like such a crazy question because no one has said anything about the follow-up to The Dark Knight. Christopher Nolan is totally quiet about whether he's even doing it. And some fan asked him about when we're going to get to see it. And Gary Oldman said, "We start shooting next year. You didn't hear that from me." So somehow Gary Oldman did this. Just real briefly, what would you like to see in the next Batman film? Third movies in comic franchises tend to be the bad one. If you look at Spider-Man and X-Men and all these.
I like everybody wants to answer the question, who's going to be Joker? With Heath Ledger's death and his performance being so incredible, how do you do it? And I'm almost afraid to even say have Joker in it. Just everybody knows he died, so don't try and bring him back. You
mean Heath Ledger died, not the character of the Joker?
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the conundrum right there.
So why does everybody think it's going to be the Joker? I don't understand.
Well, okay, at least to have the shadow of the Joker hanging over this situation. I mean, he's locked up in Arkham, but obviously, the Joker begot Two-Face. In The Dark Knight, maybe to have something going on, intertwined. I definitely hope they keep the same team together as best that they can, as they did with The Dark Knight.
Oh, the writing and director.
Yeah, because both movies did more than just have an action movie where a guy in one costume versus a guy in another costume. It was actually the first movie addressed sort of the theme of fear. Right. And the villains were about fear, and becoming Batman was about realizing how to use fear.
Right.
And so that was really cool. And then the second movie, you had the concepts of chaos. Yeah, exactly. And the answer to this question, well, where does Batman fall in this whole struggle? It's he's the guy who gets chased despite being good.
Yeah, so what's left in the theme? I mean, I always felt like Catwoman would be a good. I mean, because Catwoman was kind of ruined in the Halle Berry version and everything, but a romance angle where the villain is also a love interest, I think could be really strong. And supposedly in the comics, that's been a long time thing between Batman and Catwoman. I'm sure Chris Nolan is just waiting to see what could be done, because it's scary to do the third film. And the sad thing is, if he doesn't do it, they're still going to do it without him. They'll pull an X3 and just, find some other guy. They don't really care. The studio doesn't.
Right.
But,
should we just say stay away from the Penguin, or things that are just a little too hokey?
Yeah, I'd say that. And I'd also say stop doubling up villains. I liked Two-Face, but I thought it was a little much. I really want a focused villain, or honestly, maybe even not a villain, but just crime in general, or his family, or maybe just a non-villain Batman story where he's away from Gotham.
I would say, at my advice, pick a theme that you want to cover, and then choose your characters based on that. Right. Don't cast it first and then write for the cast. Yeah. Write a great story and then cast it based on that, Yeah. The Riddler, maybe, dealing with conundrums, dealing with...
Oh, you know what? A Mr. Freeze done proper. to really redeem it from the whole Arnold Schwarzenegger thing, which is hilarious to watch. But, to actually bring it back to the scientist whose wife is frozen and everything, I think that would be great, too.
Right. Catwoman actually might work because she was sort of a vigilante herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So to have somebody who's more like the bad guy but is in that middle realm, and then Batman's the good guy but more in that middle realm, you could have something interesting going on there. Just where do you draw the line?
Yeah. Of course, it's all speculation at this point. We know nothing. Gary Oldman apparently knows very little, but...
we are evidence of how the nerds just flock to the slightest drippings of,
like vultures on a scrap of meat. Yeah. But no, I mean, it's exciting that he said this, and maybe he's just full of it, but we've never talked about what we'd like to see, so I figured that was right. But
no more vehicles. Okay, do away with that. or at least stop having reaction shots to how cool the vehicle is. We know it's cool. All right?
I'd say instead of going bigger and more villains, more vehicles, shrink down and make it an entirely internal story. Put them in a small location or somewhere away from
maybe
Gotham.
Have this one, away from Gotham, just, I don't know.
Trapped in Arkham. I don't know. I mean, that's what the new game's going to be. We'll see. Okay, next bit of news, movie-wise, Sam Raimi to direct the Warcraft movie.
Yeah.
Weirdness, but also no details really whatsoever to speak of, except that Sam Raimi obviously, is the director of Drag Me to Hell and Army of Darkness, and has said that Warcraft is a great fantasy setting, and he likes the environment. You seemed excited about this when I told you that they were doing this.
Well, because I played World of Warcraft for a while,
Yeah.
And so I was
Warcraft before that. You've played all the RTS games.
Exactly. So there actually is kind of a ripe thing there. There is more than just a Tolkien ripoff, but there's actually a story about the humans versus the orcs, and then what happens between that. And a guy who goes so far to stop the orcs that he ends up selling his soul and becoming the ultimate bad guy between all of them. It was kind of a neat stuff. Now I would say, pull it back. Try and I think more focus just on humans and orcs.
Do you think he'll avoid the World of Warcraft thing? You think he can?
I hope they call it just Warcraft. Don't call it World of Warcraft, because World of Warcraft is the MMO based on Warcraft. That's like calling Lord of the Rings Online. The movie is Lord of the Rings Online. And it's like, why would you do that?
Well, I was explaining to Amber the other night, too, that, there's no movies coming out that aren't a sure thing. Hollywood isn't willing to take any risks right now. Yeah. And the biggest sure thing is World of Warcraft, It's billions, millions of players. They're going to come see this movie, no matter what it's like.
Dressed in garb. Basically, just the sweaty Comic-Con group will migrate over to that theater.
Yeah, but so you would maybe like to see just humans versus orcs. I think that sounds interesting.
Well,
and he could do a really funny, tongue-in-cheek but adventurous fantasy type movie.
I think that would be a good way to take it. Please don't try and do it as Lord of the Rings. Don't try and make it like that. Maybe if you do this kind of tongue-in-cheek, it's gnomes and stuff, but let's make fun of them.
Yeah.
Because that's what World of Warcraft has, and it's one of its strengths, that it doesn't take itself completely seriously.
No.
That it's able to justify having a subway system.
Yeah.
That
/dance.
That's kind of cool. So I think if they make it unique enough, people won't just call foul on the Lord of the Rings thing.
And again, I'd say don't blow it up too much, because it could suffer from the Hellboy problem, where there's just a million characters. If they try to hit every race from the game, it's going to end up being diluted. But if they just have two main races, that would actually be kind of cool.
You see what we want, Hollywood? We want emotion and real stories in a fantasy setting, sure, but that's all a backdrop, okay? We want there to be a point to the story. Use Gene Roddenberry's example.
Yeah, well, and Sam Raimi doesn't need any advice on how to make a good movie. If he sees something in this, I actually have a lot of faith in that. So excited to see more on that. Let's move on to some actual comic book news. We've talked for a while about digital comics and what's happening with Longbox, and there's one on the iPhone called iVerse. Well, the iPhone is getting another comic store from Comixology, And the cool thing about this is this app will actually have Robert Kirkman exclusivity on the iPhone. So Invincible and Walking Dead going to be exclusive.
That's big.
That is big. That's like
dirty.
Yeah, the digital comic battle has begun. Essentially on the iPhone. It's weird to think of reading on the iPhone, but it's kind of cool. These comics are only $1 a piece sometimes, $2 a piece, and the app is actually only $1. So I think it's cool. You get 30 free issues when you download the app, so that's awesome.
I gotta say, I mean, if I had to go with, all right, you can get the thing that doesn't have these comics or the thing that does. I'm gonna go with the thing that does.
Yeah.
I love those comics.
Yeah, it's pretty much all there is to it. I mean, and iVerse has a sort of panel by panel way of reading, but this is like a guided page view where it intelligently moves you around the page, but the page is still there, so you can pinch and pull if you want to.
Cool.
I think that is cool, but I just had to shout out to that because digital comics, it is happening, and I'm excited to see the competition.
Good. And that they're really taking it seriously enough to throw some money into exclusivity.
Totally.
Cool stuff.
Yeah. Last thing I want to say here is television, a little bit on TV. AMC is remaking The Prisoner, and at Comic-Con they showed 9 minutes of footage. I actually watched some of this footage. Did you get a chance to see it?
No, I haven't gotten to, so you need to explain this to me. What is this? What's going on?
So this is a great old science fiction show that was black and white.
Yeah.
Basically, a guy sort of wakes up in a mysterious village, and that man in this series is going to be played by Jim Caviezel. Mm-hmm. And he wants to leave, but everyone he talks to tells him that the village is all there is. That there is no place but the village.
Is this
Ian McKellen?
Yeah. Ian, finish up your description. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, and Ian McKellen plays sort of the leader or the governor or whatever of the village, and so that's two like bona fide movie stars. But before Lost, before the movie The Village, before all that was this television series.
Crazy. Now, is this the show that had the guy, like they were looking for Agent Zero or something?
Yeah, he plays like number 4 or number 9.
Yeah.
No, number 6. I'm sorry, number 6.
Right.
Yeah.
And number 0, they're always asking who's number 0, and he finally, like at the end, he finds out who number 0 is, and it's kind of all messed up and trippy.
Yeah, and don't say anything because
I know, but I remember. Okay, so now I know what you're talking about. That is kind of exciting that they're remaking it, but
yeah,
you know what's weird is it's almost like that ending is one of the top like 10 big finales of a show. Like what else is up there? I don't know. The Fugitive is the only like other thing that I think has a comparable ending. So. And it raises so many questions. I'm almost afraid that they're going to try and answer questions that are more fun left unanswered. Yeah,
I've seen the ending of the original Prisoner series, and I don't want to encourage people to look at that because it's. I don't want to spoil anything, but I was so intrigued by the whole sci-fi thing. I mean, it is trippy and it is messed up, but it also is like in that Planet of the Apes kind of way where you're like, this is kind of awesome. And I love the premise, and I had a black and white poster years ago that had The Prisoner on it, and it said, "I'm not a number, I'm a free man." And it's this really cool, I love this kind of story where you are the only one, your own mind is the only thing that tells you the way things should be. Everybody else tells you it's not.
Right.
Very Nowhere Man. We talked about that show before.
True. And The Matrix.
Yeah, exactly. There's that feeling of, I know something's not quite right. I don't, everybody's telling me it's this way. So I started watching this 9-minute preview. I got about halfway through and I just shut it off because I can tell you it looks high quality. You've got, like I said, bona fide actors. He gets little hints of that there might be a place outside the village. Other people might be, hiding it from him. And that's all I needed to see. I'm like, that's it. I just want to watch this show. I just want to get sucked in.
Sweet. Maybe that'll be the next big show to watch.
Yeah, super excited. AMC is a great network. They have Mad Men.
I'm glad to hear this isn't sci-fi.
Exactly. Imagine Greater. Oh, holy crap. I saw an alcohol ad the other day that said, "Resist Simple." And I was like, what is happening? You have Imagine Greater, Resist Simple, and Think Different. It's like something's going wrong. But yeah, for those who haven't seen Breaking Bad or Mad Men, they're great shows. AMC is really establishing themselves. Can't wait for The Prisoner. That's it.
Sweet.
Awesome. So on that note, we're going to close out this show. We always like to get a little nostalgic before we leave, and I don't think we have too much time, but I saw your Xbox Live quote, and for those who don't know, the word quellish, I thought that was actually an awesome reference to a movie that nobody knows, nobody remembers, and is not a good movie, Leonard Part 6. Starring Bill Cosby. And it just made me think, holy crap.
If there's a T-shirt out there that has quellish written on it, I will gladly wear it.
Right.
You know, it.
Yeah. What is quellish? Just real quick, just explain.
It's a kill word. You train these animals. You put some sort of chemical on them, and when you say the word quellish, as I think Tina Turner says,
it's Tina Turner like, yeah.
Yeah, quellish. You just and all the animals go nuts and they start killing people, and cute animals too, rabbits, lobsters, just whatever. They start killing things.
That's right.
So it's very sad. But Leonard 6, I'm almost interested in this movie again because I think the point of it was to make a bad movie. Like
maybe
as part of like the press thing, Bill Cosby went on Johnny Carson and all those shows, and his thing was he was begging people not to see the movie.
Oh,
He's
weird.
Like, don't go see this movie. It's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
You know, and I think like it was one of those examples, kind of like what we have with Borat or whatever, where it's you have to sort of be above just what's going on there. Tim and Eric is probably a better example, you know, where you can't just watch it for what it is and laugh at that. You have to know, okay, if you've ever seen public access television, you know
exactly
what they're making fun of.
I mean,
so maybe if you've seen a cheesy movie and you go see Leonard 6, you might get a wink and a nod as to what's going on here and why it actually is funny despite being crap.
Yeah, in terms of growing up with, I remember cutting out the newspaper ad for Leonard Part 6 because I was really looking forward to that movie. Like the car with a rocket launcher on the top and like his cool like outfit. It was very Ghostbusters with like the knee pads, all that stuff, and he had like the bike helmet on. Like he looked like he could be a superhero, and there wasn't a million superhero movies. So I was just like, "Oh man, what a cool like character." And I started like drawing the car and stuff. Then I saw it, and it was like he's wearing ballet slippers and fighting Birdmen and shaving them, and his daughter appears in a play, and it's not a good movie. I think that we can ennoble things like that with nostalgia, but when I went and watched some YouTube clips of this recently, it was like, holy crap. Leonard Part 6 is really weird. And
there's a reason why there wasn't a part 1 through 5.
Yeah, we didn't even say there's no 1 through 5. That is the strangest part. But you're right. I mean, it's probably like Naked Gun 33 1/3. They were probably trying to make a slapsticky, crappy movie. Somehow Bill Cosby... I guess that was the point, like you say. I thought it was going to be a serious like action movie or whatever. Boy, was I wrong. Quellish. So anyway, if you grew up geek like us and you'd like to send us an email, you may do so. Click on the link at our website, which is found at growing-up-geek.com. Follow Rob throughout the week on Twitter to see the insanity of his episode teases, which I love, by the way. I read those and I'm like, what the heck does that mean? You can follow all of those at twitter.com/GUGRob. And once again, thank you for listening. I think that's going to do it. My name is Brad.
And from all of us here, happy painting, and God bless, my friend.
And we'll see you next week.